All right. I know we still have a few more coming, but just to be respectful of your time, I know it is in the evening. Thank you for taking the time to join us for our fall coaches meeting. My name is Ryan Casey. I am the director of esports for the Michigan High School Esports League, and with me is my partner in crime, the assistant director, Maggie Helmer. So chances are when you do get some sort of communication, it's either coming from myself or from Maggie. And there's our contact info on the screen should you ever need to get a hold of us. I'm always monitoring the Discord and some other things and social media. So lots of ways to get a hold of us. We also have Mike and Eric from Playverses, and we'll introduce them in a little bit here and share their contact information as well. So we appreciate them being on. If you are a new school joining MHSEL for the first time, you have probably already been in contact with Eric at some point. He's one of our main Michigan reps that helps onboard new schools. And Mike works with a lot of different schools, a lot of different states. They travel to some of our events for in-person events at times. I'm really happy to have Eric and Mike on this call as well. This is our first time doing a coaches meeting for the season. I am a former high school principal, so maybe it's just the administrator in me that likes to have meetings. I generally will try and save things for an email if it can be an email. I promise you that. I do send emails with a lot of info throughout the season. I try to send those every Monday. I just know that last season, especially as our league becomes so much, it grows, and we have so many more schools coming in and more teams and more coaches, sometimes things get lost in the emails. I know a lot of you are busy. Many of you are teachers. You have other professions and day jobs. And so I know that sometimes emails get lost along the way or moved to the bottom of your inbox somewhere. So I just thought it would be helpful to have a meeting to just put everybody in the same room, be able to ask some questions, be able to network. So that's exactly what we're going to do with our time together today. So again, if you haven't already, to help us start networking a little bit, please introduce yourself with your name, school, and your esports experience in the chat. Throughout the time that we have together on this Zoom, the chat is going to be used to share comments, share ideas, share some thoughts. We do have the Q&A open as well. So if you actually do want to ask a question, it's a little easier for Maggie and Eric and Mike to monitor that if it's in the Q&A as compared to the chat. So again, general ideas and comments, chat, questions in the Q&A. Maggie will stop me if she thinks it's related to something we're talking about. We'll also have time at the end. So if you have something that's like really specific and unique to just you or an issue one of your kids are having, we'll probably try to answer that at the end. But absolutely, while I'm talking about certain things, please ask something in the Q&A. You can even unmute and ask a question if it's easier that way. I am recording this, and we will send the slide deck out probably tomorrow because there are a lot of hyperlinks built into the slide deck that you might find useful as well. And as I mentioned, our first time doing this, we tried being flexible. We did one on Monday at 3 o'clock. We did one in the evening on Wednesday at 7 o'clock, trying to figure out which time and day of the week is best for you. So we'll try to kind of take this into account should we try and do this again maybe in the spring season. But we did want you to be able to put a name with a face for Maggie and myself, as well as Eric and Mike. Double check some important season dates. Talk about where we stand as of right now, Wednesday, for our middle school leagues, our statewide high school leagues, and which ones are going to be varsity versus JV. I'd like to also talk about game day expectations, some things that we can do to improve on sportsmanship, integrity, and behavior, and then also share out some new partnerships that MHSEL has established in some upcoming events that I think you or your students might be interested in. This is a list of our MHSEL advisory board. I am so grateful to have the opportunity to work with this group of esports coaches and advocates throughout the year. We don't meet monthly. About every 6 weeks or so we meet, and I rely on this group heavily for feedback for our league, feedback that we supply to Playverses, to help set policy, to help design events, and to really help grow the esports ecosystem in Michigan. And so if you are on the call right now, if those people can put in, just say hi, and actually also put your email address in. So I know I saw Dave on here. I saw Ginger on here. I know we had a few of them on our call on Monday. These are awesome, awesome, awesome people for you all to just have in your network, to ask them a question, to share ideas with. Whether you're new or a savvy veteran, it's just a great group of people to help grow your network. As you can see from the map on the screen, this group really encompasses the entire state. We have middle school reps on there. We also have a college representative. And so it's just a nice way to make sure we have a good a representation, excuse me, of voices to help improve our league. We also have some Michigan Play Versus super coaches. So these are people who have applied and gone through an application process and have been highlighted by Play Versus as kind of super coaches. Again, similar to the advisory board, people that are just really good advocates and coaches to have in your network. They do a handful of pretty regular meetings with Play Versus to give them feedback, to get news coming down the pipe. Sometimes these people get information before I do, believe it or not. And so again, some really cool folks. And so again, if any of our super coaches are on today, I know quite a few of them were on our Monday call. You just feel free to say hi as well. And again, you have their email address there should you want to reach out to them at some point. And finally, before we kind of jump into the main info, some ways to stay connected with us. The big one that I want to point out is our Discord. Discord, I would say I'm still pretty new to it. I've been using it for about 1.5 years now, not quite 2 years. I was very hesitant. Maybe like many of you, I was like, listen, I don't need one more thing to manage and oversee, right? Between email or Twitter or X or other things, right? I don't need another thing. But I will say it is a more efficient way to communicate, to get questions answered and just to get quick info than it is to email. I really do believe that now. So there is a link right there that'll allow you to join our Discord. I have certain channels that are set up for everybody. Certain channels are set up just for coaches to talk and communicate. There's a link to a how-to document if you're brand new and you know nothing. So I would check that out and strongly encourage you to do that. Play Versus has a Discord as well. So I would encourage you to join both of those. And then we also are on Twitch when we do stream some matches. I'm getting ready to switch us over to YouTube Live, I think. The people from Heartland have convinced me that YouTube Live is the way to go. So I'll have some more info on that. If you're looking at potentially streaming some of your matches, we have some how-to documents related to that. Otherwise, we're going to dive right into some of the important dates. And hopefully these dates aren't really a surprise to you. So right now, it is the 18th. We are in our second fall coaches meeting. The regular season starts next week for everybody, high school and middle school. Our high school regular season is going to end November 15th. Middle school season is going to go a little longer. Why? Remember, the middle school season this fall is a scholastic season only, meaning there's no playoffs, no state championship for middle school for fall. So their season will be a little extended. That'll change in the spring, middle school folks, right? We will do something that models what the high school is doing with playoffs and a championship. We are hosting the Shoutcaster Showdown competition again. I have a slide that talks about all that, but our first round entries, if you have some kids that want to submit their shoutcasting videos, that's going to be due by October 18th. I do want to point out from Play Versus, because of the election that'll take place on Tuesday, November 5th, all of the Tuesday matches are moving to Monday, November 4th. So again, Tuesday, November 5th, election day, those matches are moving backwards to Monday, November 4th. Our Shoutcaster Showdown finals will be November 9th. That's a Saturday at Fair State. We are running our high school awards program again, like we did last spring. We will be recognizing all league and all state awards. And those nominations are going to be due November 15th. I have a Google form that I'll send to you when the application process opens up. Remember, Player of the Year, Coach of the Year, we can't run those until the end of the spring season. High school playoffs will start November 18th, the week of the 18th. And that will conclude for most of the games that are going to be played in person on December 7th at Michigan State University. And again, I will send you all of the official dates for those things for playoffs. what games we know for sure will be played in person. So you will have those with plenty of time to prepare if you think you have a pretty good squad with a good chance of making it. How are we doing so far, Maggie, in the chat or the Q&A? We doing okay?
We have lots of questions regarding JV and varsity leagues that I know that we will dive into here in just a little bit, as well as some protocol settings. And we did have a question about getting registered for middle school league, which I believe Eric is there to assist with that. So we are doing great. Keep rolling.
Okay. So to talk about the games, leagues, and divisions, because we did spend quite a bit of time on this on Monday. We actually went back, Maggie went back and kind of redesigned some of our slides to hopefully make this a little clearer. And we are learning as we're trying to evolve with our league as we do different types of divisions and whatnot. So essentially, we have 3 leagues that schools can participate in through the Michigan High School Esports League and through Playversus. So we have a high school league, we have a middle school league now, which is new, right? And then we even have through Special Olympics and Unified Sports, a Special Olympics high school, middle school league. So for our high school, we have Eastern regional titles that you can see down here. So those are games in which we don't really have enough teams and schools to keep it Michigan only. And so we have to extend to other states that are on the Eastern time zone. And we have state titles. So games that will only be played in Michigan with other Michigan schools and Michigan teams. From there, if there are enough teams, we will run not just a varsity division like we always have. We are attempting to run a junior varsity division. Varsity division would be more competitive. You can only have 1 team per school entered. This was a new policy that I emailed the schools back. I think it was like May we made this decision. And again, if we have enough, we would have a junior varsity division. So you can have unlimited number of teams for junior varsity. That would probably be for less experienced teams, younger teams, that sort of thing. So again, especially at the high school level, Eastern regional titles versus state titles. Middle school is very similar. Middle school is going to be, if we don't have enough to keep it in Michigan only, we'll run it as a regional title. If we have enough to keep it in Michigan, we will run it as a state title. High school only, we are potentially doing varsity and JV. And so to show you kind of what that looks like, again, are the unified leagues. So if you are interested in having your special needs students work with general population students in a collaborative team atmosphere, it's really, really cool to see done, especially if you have any experience at some of the larger schools that participate in unified esports, like with basketball and such. It is so awesome to watch. Here are the games and the dates that those are running. So Mario Kart and Rocket League are the only 2 games for high school. Mario Kart is the only game for middle school. Again, that's through Special Olympics. Middle school titles. We have 7 games. When we made the announcement in early August that we were going to be offering middle school esports on the Playversus platform, I think we only had 3 to start. And then the Nintendo licensure got approved. You know, they've added in some more games. So we are up to 7 games. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, you can see the breakdown. If we have any coaches on here that are doing double duty, God bless you, and you're coaching high school and middle school, please note that not all of the games line up on the exact same day as your high school counterpart. Part of that was designed as a capacity issue, knowing that hopefully you wouldn't have to use all of your switches at the same time or your PCs or whatnot, depending on the game. So just note that they do not exactly mirror each other, the middle school games and dates versus the high school games and dates. So as it stands right now, the games that are going to be played as Eastern regional titles for sure, without a doubt, so other states at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, are for middle school, Splatoon, Rocket League, Madden, NBA 2K, and chess. I'll be honest, Mario Kart and Smash Brothers are still pretty low. These are like a question mark right now. I'm really hoping that some of those numbers jump up in the next day or so when we have to make our final decision, and that we can keep Mario Kart and Smash Brothers as an MHSEL state league, meaning only Michigan middle schools against other Michigan middle schools for Mario Kart and Smash. I will send verification out probably tomorrow once we get those final numbers and can confirm where these will land. Typically, our spring season is even larger than our fall. So even though it might be this way for the fall season, this could look different in the springtime. I would assume we will have confirmed MHSEL state leagues for middle school, and probably more than 2 come springtime, if I was a betting man. I'm going to cover the high school one, and then we'll pause, because I'm sure there'll be some questions on all of this.
Yep,
Here
we've got a
is
few.
the high school schedule. You can see the games on Tuesday versus Wednesdays versus Thursdays. Remember, Mondays and Fridays are typically kept open for practice, for scrimmages. Remember, again, if you have only a Rocket League and a Mario Kart team at your school and you only play on Thursdays, you don't have to practice or scrimmage on Mondays. Wednesday can be your practice or scrimmage days. There's nothing that says you don't have to, but we generally leave those dates open for reschedules, scrimmages, that sort of thing. So here's where we are at with the state leagues versus Eastern Regional leagues versus the potential varsity and JV leagues. So the games that are just really low on enrollment, we do not have enough to have a healthy league in order to keep it in Michigan, would be chess, Fortnite, Hearthstone, League of Legends, Street Fighter, and NBA 2K. So those are Eastern Regional, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time against some other, you will play some Michigan schools, right? And you will play some non-Michigan schools. The ones that we know are healthy enough that you will stay within the state. It's a statewide league. Only other Michigan high schools, Madden, Mario Kart, Overwatch, Splatoon, and Valorant. So if that means if you signed up for a JV team for one of these titles in the middle here, we did not have enough JV to make it a league. So you will be lumped back in. It'll just be one normal varsity league like we've always ran in the past.
Okay,
The ones
Ryan.
that we think we have enough for are Smash. I know for a fact we have enough for Smash Brothers to run both varsity and JV. Rocket League is so close right now. I'll be honest. We'll get the final numbers probably tomorrow morning and make a decision. As of like this morning, I don't think we had quite enough to run a Rocket League JV. I'm hoping that'll change because I would really, really like to run a JV league for that one as well. And like I said, we will know more by tomorrow once we pull our final audit of numbers, and I send that out as a confirmation via email. So any questions? Let's pause here to talk about high school, middle school leagues, and game titles. What do we got, Maggie?
All right, Ryan, first one for chess, since there is no varsity or JV option, how many chess teams can I field? Esports at our school has absorbed the chess club, and that's about 5 teams worth of kids. And from everything that I am aware of, that is an unlimited number of teams within Eastern Regional, since there is no JV or varsity. So you have an unlimited number that you can have, Frank.
Correct. So there is an unlimited number of teams that you can enter for regional titles, for our state leagues. So any of these titles here. And then even our JV leagues, if we do offer a JV league for Smash and Rocket League, the only catch with unlimited is you may only have 2 teams qualify for playoffs. And there is a bracket reset once we get to the semifinals if we have 2 teams. So like no 2 teams from the same school can face off in the finals. So there would be a bracket reset. So you would have to square off in the semifinals. So that is the only catch to Eastern Regionals, state leagues, and JV leagues.
Yep. So another piece about JV and varsity leagues that is a great question to clarify is they only have 1 Rocket League team at this point in time. They should be varsity, not junior varsity, question mark. That is not correct. You can do it whichever league you believe that fits their skill level the most. If you don't believe that they're ready to be competing at a varsity level, then put them in junior varsity. If you think that they are ready to be competing at the varsity level and they're ready to go with the experience that they have and the skill sets, put them in the varsity league and see how they do.
Absolutely. And I do want to point out that if we are able to run a JV league, there would still be JV playoffs and there still would be a JV championship. The JV titles will not be featured at our in-person championships at Michigan State University, but you would have an opportunity. The entire reason we wanted to try and run a varsity and JV league was to give more postseason opportunities to additional schools, especially for our larger leagues. You know, when I had 200 smash teams last year, we can only run the biggest playoff bracket we can run is 64 teams, right? Only 30% of the schools got to qualify for playoffs. That's a bummer, right? A lot of people with good records didn't make playoffs. So we actually piloted this last spring a little bit. We ran, if you remember, for those of you who are in MHSEL last spring, we ran a Smash Silver tournament. That was essentially like us trying to pilot this JV model. So really good questions. What else you got, Maggie?
One of the pieces, I would like to know, sorry, we're looking in the chat right now, is about, feedback that we have high school and middle school both having Rocket League games, on the same day. So having the feedback now, knowing that, that is an issue, especially for coaches that are coaching both middle school and high school. It is good feedback for us to take back to our Play Versus team and for Eric and Mike that are on the call right now to take back to their league ops team as well, so that when we're, this is our first season adding in middle school to our league. So we are doing our best to, make everything work. And we're really sorry that there's issues that we're running into, but getting this honest feedback and getting this information is the things that we need so that we can make improvements for the next season and the next school year. Another question that we had is that middle school Mario Kart team is currently assigned to Eastern Regional. Should it have switched over to MHSCL League? If Ryan, can you switch back to the middle school division slide? If you are currently if it was Eastern Regional, if it stays as a state league, it'll automatically move over with our Play Versus League Ops team here by
Probably
the end
tomorrow. I think for middle school, because we weren't sure on our numbers, everything was just listed as like, I believe, a regional title. And then if we get enough numbers, we'll pull you all out so we keep you in-house in Michigan only. I know there's a couple that have like UP schools and stuff that are on like Central Time Zone, or some that have such an early dismissal time. They had to do like a regional league at 3:00 because of, for whatever reason. Obviously those will be left, but we will pull you over automatically. So, and that should happen. So like if you were to log in like Friday, it should say that or should look that way. If not, reach out and we will double check.
Yep. And then just another question is varsity and JV running the same way for Super Smash, 3 versus 3, the same as 1 versus 1 leagues.
Yep, the rule books and everything will be exactly the same. Yep, no different rules or anything. Just it's really more about just the competitiveness of the league.
Yep, and then there was a couple questions that I believe Mike has been answering in regards. Mike and Eric have both been answering in regards to some technology. So I think we can get moving onto the next area.
Awesome. And like I said, we'll hang out at the end. If your question didn't get answered there or got missed, we'll stay on at the end and answer some more. So just a couple things I want to try and reiterate here. When it comes to some best practices, again, it's hard to account for every potential issue that might occur, right? We still have issues popping up with football and volleyball that have been around for decades, right? So to think like esports isn't going to face any issues, would be pretty naive. So just a couple of things. Number one, please take the time to look at your schedule ahead of time at the beginning of the week and communicate with your opponents early. We generally, they say, if you look at any of the play versus resources, like, please make sure that you, communicate or touch base with your opposing coach an hour before your match time starts. Please do it earlier than that. Do not wait till an hour, because something's going to pop up. You're going to get an email. You're going to get distracted. Something else is going to happen. And then before you know it, you were supposed to play at 4 o'clock and no one's even checked in with each other. We highly, highly, highly recommend you do this in the morning of match day, or at least maybe get sure you do it by your lunch hour, maybe. All of our matches should be starting at 4 o'clock. Unless prearranged for some other reason, matches should not be starting, after 4:30. I know you got to get into the lobby, you got to wait for everybody to get in there, and then you'll start. So they might not start exactly at 4 o'clock, but that is the goal. We've had people ask before, can we start earlier? My school gets out early. Sure, if you can prearrange that with the other coach, maybe both of you guys are like a 2:35, 2:40 dismissal time, and you guys want to start your match at 3:30, do your thing. Go ahead and do it. Obviously, if they can't, you can't hold that against them, right? So they'd have to both agree to it. But we should not be starting matches really even at 4:30 or after 4, even after, right? You shouldn't be waiting to say, oh, I think we're going to need to reschedule or forfeit at 4:29. So, we should be holding our players accountable that they're not coming late, right? And we're trying to stall to let those players in. Football matches don't wait till 7:15 because the quarterback's running late, right? Like, they start at 7 o'clock. I was actually at a national conference in Minnesota this summer, and I got to meet different directors from different leagues. Ohio, Minnesota were two of the leagues that I got to spend some time with. And one of them actually went to a no reschedule rule. So you are not allowed to reschedule matches. And the director told me, he's like, I took a lot of heat for a year from all of our coaches. They were mad. But a year later, they all agree it was the best move, and their forfeit rate actually went down. No, I'm not saying we're going to do that. I'm not saying that. There are things that happen, snow days, you lose power at your school. There's kind of these acts of God that happen that we want coaches to be flexible with one another. If you can be flexible, please try and be flexible with somebody else, especially if they're taking the time to look at their schedule early to know, oh, we got a half day here. Our schedule's jacked up. Is there any way we can do this instead? Let's try and be flexible with those people, because there's probably going to be a time when you're going to hope that somebody's flexible for you. That is different than, oh, my star player isn't here yet. He's running late because he decided to run after school. We'll go do this. And I'm trying to stall and pretend like something's not working so we can start at 5 o'clock so he'll be there in time so we can win and stay undefeated. That's not the same thing, obviously. So please do your best to get those matches started early. And one other thing I want to point out, because this came up a little bit, players are allowed to play their one match per week, and they can move between teams technically. So if you are in Splatoon, you have 3 Splatoon teams. You can have a player that maybe has a doctor's appointment after school one day or another commitment, can't play. He can move to a different, match. But it shouldn't be because you're trying to hide your star player against your crosstown rival in week 2 so you don't see him until playoffs. That's a different reason, right? So just be mindful of that. Let's make sure we're doing it with integrity. So hopefully these are common sense things that I think everybody tries to abide by, but they do happen. They do come up, right? People get competitive, and sometimes they let that overtake their judgment a little bit. A couple other just hot topics that came up from our last meeting. We are in the second week of preseason. If you have not played a match yet of any of your games, please get some matches and scrimmages in over the next couple of days. Test your technology. Make sure your connectivity is good for our new schools. We talked about this a lot on the new coaches meeting, especially with Nintendo Switches, can really, really be difficult sometime. Make sure you have all your codes, so you have all your characters unlocked. We did have a question come up about substitutions, about when they can sub people. It really depends on the game. So please be sure, and we have all the links in here to check the rule books for all of the game titles you're going to be playing, because it will tell you how character selection goes, how map selection goes, and those types of things. Remember, players do have to connect their accounts to your team account. And we do have a lot of help desk and support available. If you're running into issues like this, let them know. You can reach out to me at any time. You can hop on Discord and ask a question if you're running into trouble at any time. But to be honest, the fastest way to deal with an issue is to reach out to Playversus and submit a ticket. They generally get most of their things answered. You can actually ask to talk to a live person to submit a ticket. They usually get them answered within about 5 minutes. I just like to remind people that when you do talk to a live person, remember, you're in panic mode. We know you're concerned. Your players are probably giving you a lot of grief trying to get something resolved. You are talking to a human that's doing the best they can to help support you and resolve your issues. So just please keep that in mind when you are talking to them, because I know sometimes I think things get a little heated with some coaches. Questions, Maggie?
Yes, as we have gone, we had a couple questions regarding rosters and some substitutions. I know that we are working, a couple people have typed in some answers, but I think it would be beneficial for people not reading everything. With rosters, I only have 7 kids, but they want to play 3 different games. Is that allowed?
Yeah, so kids can play multiple game titles. Absolutely. Obviously, they're not going to really be able to play a game title that's on the same day at the same time, right? Because I think there's no way you're going to be able to reschedule later start times for every single game. But if they play on different dates, the games are on different days, absolutely.
All right, and then we have another one, is we are a rural school with a small player base. Is it okay that I have 4 Mario Kart players also on either the varsity or JV SSBU teams?
Yes,
So if
I don't
it
think
is Mario Kart versus Super Smash Brothers, that would be a yes.
Yeah, I don't think those ones are at the same. I don't know the game schedule off the top of my head. I probably should, as long as they're not at the same time.
Correct. A lot of players last year with unlinked accounts or different games. Is that mandatory?
So that kind of comes up to this next thing I'm going to talk about a little bit, this competitive thing. So players have to link their, publisher accounts and whatnot. We want people to be open and honest about their players and their players' ability levels. I know for a fact we have some players that purposely have different accounts that they use for this, so it doesn't show that they are diamond ranked or whatever, right? So to, again, try to kind of hide. That's one of these things that has led us to really wanting to create this competitive integrity and behavior pledge, which I'm going to open up here in just a second. So I don't really have a way of controlling that, so to speak, right? I don't have a way. We don't have the manpower to research and figure out what kids have dual accounts and this sort of thing. I'm just trying to hold everybody to, the honesty and kind of integrity aspect of this, that people are putting their best lineup together, letting people know who they are and where they stand and how they're ranked, going against another school's best, and may the best team win. So some of those types of things had led us to creating this pledge. As a coach, as your players, you already sign off on the Playversus code of conduct. A lot of you already participate in things at your school related to the school code of conduct, athletic code of conduct, whatnot, talking about these types of things. And I just thought it would be helpful. I'm going to open up this document, and do you see my screen, Maggie?
Yep.
So the advisory board helped us kind of write this. I'm not asking you to fill this out and turn this into me. All I'm hoping that you will do is go through this, read this with your students. If you want to have them sign it and turn it into you, great. I just want you to go through it and maybe display it somewhere on a wall. So if you do have an issue come up and you have to give a kid a consequence, or Playversus or myself has to assign a consequence to a student or your team, we can point back at this and say, hey, this is where kind of we went wrong, right? And so this basically just kind of outlines best practices of giving your best effort to be there and do everything on time, to represent your school with honor and grace. Try not to be malicious or dishonest with tactics to steal, disguise, or gain information or strategies from other schools. right? Communicate. We've talked about communication a lot, early and often. Adhere to school appropriate language for both virtual and in-person matches. We always encourage students to play in the room with their coach. I know that's not always possible based on some alternate schedules that happen. So we really hope that the coach is at least on the Discord voice channel listening. We want to make sure kids understand the appropriate way to act and talk during their matches. Again, refrain from deceptive tactics to hide, cover, or minimize players, profiles, ranks, or data. So kind of what we just talked about that Maggie asked. And that you accept responsibilities for all the actions and consequences that may occur, right? As I mentioned, sometimes a kid does something and the publisher bans them. There's nothing that Playversus or myself can do if that happens, right? So they really got to make sure that they're on the up and up so they don't do something that holds the team back. And that's a great talking point about teamwork and holding each other up that you get to have with your students. So there's a link in here, again, when we send this slide deck out, that'll take you to this document. Print it off, pull it up on the projector, read it with your kids, make sure that they understand, and hopefully this will take care of some of those issues.
And we do have a couple questions
Yep.
when you have a second. I'm going to drop the link to the pledge right now so that everybody has it in the chat as well, because we had a couple of those. And I believe that Mike and Eric also answered these, but it might also apply to a few people listening. What is the best way to get Nintendo online access? A school account, students' personal accounts? Do we need one Nintendo account per Switch/team?
I am going to I might even let, if there's some other coaches that want to answer that in the chat or unmute. I know Dave is on here, Ginger. We have quite a few other coaches that have been doing this for quite a while. Feel free.
You do need a Nintendo Online account in order to play. What we do is we have one for each of our Switches. Otherwise, you won't be able to play competitively. However, on top of that, like the kids can link their own personal accounts to Playversus, and that's how that kind of works. And so a lot of schools do that. So when you see them play, like it'll say, whatever the school abbreviation, MHS or OWS or whatever the abbreviation for the school happens to be. It's usually a school Switch. Kids can also play on their own Switches, but again, they would have to have a Nintendo Online account in order to do so.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
I got
I've
Frank who's going to chime in too. Go ahead.
Yeah, we signed up for the family online account, and it is significantly cheaper, and we use 5 Switches. So we have 5 Switches, and I mean, outside of connection issues stemming from like our school's internet doesn't work on Tuesdays for whatever reason, but like outside of that, like it's worked perfectly fine.
Awesome. So that was the Nintendo family plan. Is that?
Yeah, the family plan, and it is significantly cheaper.
All right. That's good to know. I didn't even realize there was a family plan. So thank you, Frank. Thanks, Dave.
That is awesome. I do want to make note that Mike from Playversus did make a note in the chat. If you want, feel free to reach out to Eric Suter. We also have his email at the end of this slide deck, so you will have his email address about getting free Nintendo Online membership codes. Also, additionally, there was a question about if players on the opponent's team aren't linked, what are our options?
I got that answered. And it's to reach out to PlayVS. Yeah, I found their code in their play rulebook as well. And it's just to reach out to PlayVS specifically to open a ticket.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Thank you, Coach. All right, we are 40 minutes in. I'm going to try and hammer out through this last little section of slides, and then we will stay around for anybody that has any questions. I know it's getting late at night, so I'm gonna keep moving on, and we'll keep answering in the chat as we go. I mentioned the awards program last spring that we did that. It was really cool. We had a great turnout. I'm excited to do this again. So again, all league, you get to pick who that representative from every team that you have is worthy of that award. We send you a digital certificate. You get to print it off, sign it, type in the kid's name, pass it off, pass it out to them. All state is a nomination process. And so when this opens up later into October, I'll send all the info out. Those will be the only two we do this fall. We'll repeat those two in the spring, and then we'll also add in Player of the Year and Coach of the Year. And those will be presented in person for those who are able to make it. If they can't make it, we mail them December 7th at Michigan State University. I mentioned the Shoutcaster Showdown. We did this last year for the first time at Ferris State. It was really, really fun. We have some really talented kids that are great. So if you've ever participated or watched or have kids who do band festival or solo ensemble, BPA or DECA presentations, forensics, debate competitions, it's designed very similarly to that. Kids are going to submit a virtual submission of them shoutcasting either Rocket League or Smash Brothers. We select the best of the best to come do it in person at Ferris State on November 9th. They are going to call a game or a match that they have not seen this time. We are going to provide them with some context where they're going to go to a prep room for 10 minutes and read and look at who's been doing what the first couple rounds, and then they go live and call it as they see it. And so we have trophies, certificates, and a $500 scholarship that actually went to, I think Richard's on the call from Taylor, one of his students last year, who did an awesome job. So hopefully you guys can talk some of your kids that you think have a good personality that would do well. If you go to our website here, I think we also have linked to YouTube samples from the finalists from last year, so you can kind of get an idea as to what they're going to be asked to do. And I know Dave's on here, Ginger's on here, Bay City and Mona Shores all had people participate last year, and their kids did a really cool job. I know this is way out here with the date. I just want to let you know we're trying something new. We are going to try and run a high school student combine, just like you see for the college football players going to the NFL. We're going to try and get any student who thinks they have the skills to play collegiately the opportunity to come to Michigan State and actually play and network and talk with college scouts, directors, and coaches. We have not decided what games or what times and the formats. We're still, working on that. Just know I'll get you more info as it comes, but just know if you have some pretty talented kids, they will be interested in doing this for sure. And hopefully we'll have a ton of different colleges there being represented. Last year we started working with esports gear. You see Maggie and I have our fancy stuff on. We have quite a few schools that participated. If you're interested, esports gear is our official apparel partner. You actually get to work with a real artist to design your jersey. It does take a little bit of time, start to finish, to get your jersey. So I would suggest you start this process sooner than later, because they're going to mail you a sample to make sure the material and the colors and the placement's right. So by the time you do that, it does take a little while. There's a link where you can learn more how to get started. They actually run a lot of this right through Discord to do all your samples and order, but you can do it via email if you are not a Discord person. But you can see some really cool designs up there. This is a new one we just announced. I have a lot of coaches that say to me that, hey, I'm coaching esports. I don't know anything. The kids begged me to be their coach. And I couldn't turn them down because I have a bleeding heart. If you are looking to get some additional coaching for yourself as a coach and your players, we are working with a company called Coachify that basically, for a discounted rate, because you're an MHSEL school, I think it's like $150, you get access to a platform tool that'll allow you to monitor all of your kids, assign goals and objectives and practice plans for them, things to work on. But then you can take videos from your scrimmages, from your matches, and send them to the coach community that'll give you feedback on your matches. So if you're like, I don't know what to tell my Rocket League kids what to do any different, you could record a Rocket League match and send it to the coach community and Coachify, and they'll come back and give you some things to work on. So Joshua at coachify.gg is the person to talk to. Again, just if you think you have a team that could use some additional support and coaching, this would be a really cool option. And the final one I think I have you, we actually haven't announced this yet, but we are trying to really focus on additional STEM and computer science opportunities for kids this year. And so one of the ways we're going to do that is we're working with a company called SkillQuest that students can take a course, an online course, that basically has them learn Python language to build a Rocket League bot. And so they do this course, they learn how to design and code their bot, and then they can even enter it in a national competition at the end of the season or the end of the semester. I think it's supposed to be $200 for the course. I think as an MHSCL member, you're going to get like $10 or $15 off of that. But if you just have a kid that's kind of a more of that coding programmer kid that might be interested, whether they play in the Rocket League or not is irrelevant. That might be something you're interested in. And we're going to work on more STEM and computer science skills and opportunities throughout this year. I am not going to go through all of the resources slide. Just know that there are links to additional information. A lot of it we have already talked about. Remember, there's that submit a ticket button that if you ever have an issue on anything, that's what you want to click on to get started, to get something resolved. We have all of the links to different websites. There's our Twitter, our X handle. If you can follow us at the MHSEL, I suggest that if you can do it, post things. I always told my teachers when I was a principal, tell your story. Let people in your community know what you're doing. Send out a newsletter. Stream your matches if you can. Put stuff on social media. Let them know, you got just as much stuff going on as the volleyball team, right? Or the track team or football team. And I love resharing your stuff. I love watching your stuff that you make. So please continue to do that. Everything else in here are just links to all the different game rule books, all the different game day protocols, all the good stuff. And so 7:48. I've done a lot of talking. I know it's late at night. I'm gonna want to answer any other questions we might have. If you don't think you have any questions and you got everything you needed from this, you are all set to log off and do your thing. Best of luck with the rest of the preseason going into the regular season next week. Otherwise, Maggie, Eric, and Mike and myself are going to hang out and see if we have any other questions to answer from the chat or the Q&A. How's it looking, Maggie?
We're doing good. And big shout out and thank you to Eric and Mike for answering all these questions. Seriously, you guys have been a rock star. Definitely had a shout out here in the chat as well. Appreciate you all.
Go ahead. I think it's Dustin that's in there. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question real quick. So do you guys have best practices for forfeiting games ahead of time that we know we're not going to be able to make? Because one of the things I'm going to run into in the early season is I have kids who want to play Rocket League for most of the season, but currently they have conflicting soccer obligations. That their soccer season ends, I think, like the first week of October, so we're probably going to miss the first week or two of Rocket League. What is the best thing I should do to reach out to other schools? Hey, like we can't make it this week.
That is a great question. I know obviously you can communicate and let them know, but I think I don't know, you can't log it in early, can you? I don't know if Dave or
that's basically my question.
Or somebody that's on the call.
Through Play Versus, you can go in anytime once you have your opponent, and you can request to reschedule, and it's kind of up to the other coaches to grant that request. Some coaches can't. I mean, like if their labs are full every day, it's hard to do. Right. But that's where I would start. Go there and ask the other coach if they could reschedule. If they can, great, reschedule and play just on a different day. If they can't, then you're gonna have to go through there. But most coaches will try to accommodate you if they can.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much.
And I do want to point out, Dustin, just so you know, if forfeits happen, it sucks when it does, but it's just a fact of life, especially as we're still building up esports programs. It happens. Just know though that if you do forfeit you can only forfeit up to 2 matches, and then you are automatically disqualified from playoff opportunities.
Yep. Yeah, okay, no, I was aware of that. Thank you for pointing out. But yeah, I just rather have the kids. The question was basically like, all right, we either might have to forfeit a couple of games, or we're not going to field a team at all for Rocket League.
Totally understand, and I appreciate the fact that you're taking the time to look early and communicate early. That's what I'm hoping everybody absolutely does. So, yep, great question.
Thank you.
Hey, and Ryan, we also had a question in about for online playoffs, will they finish on a day other than December 7th?
Great question. Yes. Yeah. So the December 7th day is going to be for the 3 or 4 titles that we are showcasing in person. Right now, our policy is we pick the most popular games. By most popular, I mean the games that have the most schools and teams competing in them. We are been exploring. We're trying to figure out ways to showcase additional games and or additional rounds of games. So like we've been doing championships and semis. We're attempting to do quarterfinals on up on December 7th. For the games that won't be showcased in person, you actually will not play on Saturday. You'll play the week prior. And for some of the games, depending on how many rounds of playoffs we had, it is possible you'll go into the next week on some weekdays. We will have that playoff schedule cemented down here in the next week or two. Once we finalize and know our final numbers of teams and how many we're going to make for playoff brackets. So great question. Looks like Ralph has a question about some in-person stuff. Go ahead, Ralph.
All right, here we go. Yeah, I know a lot of people have technical question things, so mine's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So my district is like fully invested in esports. They love it. We made it a varsity sport. We have everything going on. So we just need more kids and numbers, which is happening at the feeder schools and stuff. But what are your ideas for in-person tournaments? There was like, I think Divine Child hosted one last year, and there was one in Grand Rapids. It was amazing.
Yep.
Our district is willing to host one. Like
Awesome.
my athletic director was talking about it. He's like, "What can we do? We have the facilities, we have the equipment, we have like they literally bought us. We have over 40 Nintendo Switches that we bought last
that's
year.
awesome.
Like we are invested. We
Smash
have the
tournament.
technology, all that
See
is.
home.
We can do this as a our district's lucky in many regards, but I'm wondering if this is just a side conversation. I can email you and discuss it then, or is this something I should talk to you about
So
right now?
I'll say this, and then you and I can talk separate, Coach. I'm going to send an email every Monday just talking about matches of the week, what's going on. I will always send out additional opportunities to play that I find and collect. We try to host some throughout the year. As you mentioned, we've Divine Child, Grand Valley, Mona Shores has done stuff. Brown City has done things. Kettering, we try and do a lot of different things all over the pocket of the state. We tried to, sometimes Maggie and I actually help run and facilitate those. Obviously, we can't be everywhere at once. Other times, we help you all plan your own tournament, and then we can send you some prizes to pass out and give with the kids. And we can kind of help be a thought partner with you to walk you through some things to think about, just because we do have the experience of running them at other places. So, yes, you can absolutely run your own. We'd love to help you get it set up and help promote it. And yes, we will be doing some more of those same things we've done and new, and I will communicate that to you as they come up. So you and I can set up a different time, Coach, to talk.
All right, then I will communicate via email, wait for a few of yours, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Any other questions for people who are still hanging out with us? Maggie, everything good on your end?
I don't see anything. I think we're good.
Awesome. Well, Maggie, thank you so much for your help. Mike and Eric, thank you as well. Everybody else that was on and sharing and in the comments, in the chat, and the Q&A, I really appreciate it. I hope you and your students have a great experience. We're always trying to do our best to improve what we're doing. And so if there's anything we can help with along the way, please reach out. We are an email or a text or a phone call away. So best of luck next week, everybody. Take care.